Today, ahead of all of that drafting, Adam Peters did his pre-draft press conference, the Commanders GM doing this for the first time. He did it with Lance Newmark, the assistant general manager. You'll hear from Peters mostly here, though. And obviously the biggest pressing question is, hey, what are you guys going to do at number 2? And do you know what you're going to do at number 2? Here was Adam Peters earlier today.
Yeah, we're real close. There's still a few more things in the process we have to do, and as you guys may be getting, I'm pretty process-driven, process-oriented. So we have to debrief on our 30 visits with the whole staff, talk about everybody there. That we haven't done that yet, and then later tonight we have a medical meeting as well to go over all the medicals in the combine and get that information as well, and just ask pointed questions if there are any. On certain players, if we have some questions on that. So we have a few more things. DQ and I will huddle up and probably have an answer really sometime next week. Now, I will say this also, you don't really need to make a decision until you need to make a decision. So there's no rush with that, but I think we'll have a pretty good idea what we're doing early next week.
I love that that end there, as much as it drives people crazy. We don't have to make a decision until we have to make a decision. Yeah, that's kind of how this works. And again, like the pressure from fans is, and from the media to the extent that there is pressure from either, is like we all want to know. And because we don't have the chance to do these interviews or look at the medicals, and we're not in daily meetings about it, like we feel like we've made up our mind because there's no new information for us to get. For them, as you just heard, they're still collecting information. What if they're peeling through the medical charts next week and they're like, oh, there's something we don't like here? Like, that is the reality of what they're going through in these final preparations. And again, quarterback evaluation is really, really hard. And that is a reality that Adam Peters has certainly wrestled with.
Oh, wow. I don't know if we've improved at it. If you look at the 21 draft, right, which I was a part of in that one too, and that was you're seeing that it wasn't a ton of success at the top end of that draft based on so far. There's all those guys' stories are yet to be written, so it is hard, and it's really hard. But you try to learn from all those things that as you go along. We've both been in this 20 plus years. We have a lot of experience, both good and bad. You probably learn a little bit more from your bad experiences and from your good experiences, but you try to bank all those experiences and everything you learn and help you make the best decision the next time. But just like anything, I think we talked about it, maybe it was at the combine, but it's a lot easier to evaluate a defensive end than it is a quarterback, because it's there's so many other things that go into a quarterback than just what you see on the tape, and that's really the core of it. Is just there's so many different variables within a quarterback, what he has to do on the field each and every day, and what he has to do every day in preparation to get there. I'm not minimizing defensive ends by any means. I was one, but it's a little more simple in terms of the evaluation process.
That's something that I think I've learned a lot about over these last couple of years working with Logan, is some positions are just not that hard, and some are damn near impossible. Offensive tackle is a pretty straightforward evaluation. Like I won't say there's like a minimum body type, but like arm length and stuff like that. Like if a dude's got 31-inch arms, like he's probably not playing tackle in the NFL. Like his feet would have to be so incredibly good, and every other aspect of his game would have to be so good to overcome the fact that he just doesn't have the length to keep guys off of him in space and guard and protect and pass pro and reach in run blocking these big, long physical athletes that play on the edges in the NFL. And then you also have every single snap did he win, did he not? So if a guy, even at Marius Mims, he played 8 games. If you had 8 games of quarterback play, that would be like insanely hard to evaluate. J.J. McCarthy's got 2 years worth, and people are like, there's not enough throws here. Because on every single play, your left tackle, I guess if you're Oregon's left tackle and they run the amount of screens they do, and they run 70% of them to not your side, yeah, okay, that maybe in that case there's not as much to evaluate. But even then, like, what do you do on the backside of your screen? Do you seal the way you're supposed to? Like, there is a thing to evaluate on every single play if you're an offensive tackle. It's one of the reasons it is, along with the body type, kind of prototypes that exist, one of the easier positions to evaluate. Defensive end, like, do you get after the pass rusher? How is your pressure percentage? Do you turn those into sacks? What does the tape say in terms of how you get your sacks? Do you constantly win and create sacks, or did you have a 10-sack season because you got lucky because quarterbacks rolled into you? And actually, the pressure percentage of the defensive end opposite you is the indicator that guy's actually the better player. So defensive end, not that complicated. Corners, really hard, because how often does the ball come your way, and what do you do when it gets there? Why is the ball not coming your way? Is it because you're constantly shutting stuff down, or is it because the guy who plays on the other side of you is terrible? Like, if you're Kenyon Mitchell this year out of Toledo and you're the best corner in the draft, you were playing at Toledo and you were the best corner that's coming out in the NFL draft. You think they were throwing at you a ton? No, which makes it hard to evaluate. But you have to go based off what you see. Quarterback, there's seemingly an endless amount of variables and no set guidelines of what works and what doesn't. Even amongst the set guidelines of height and weight, etc., there are exceptions. So what does Adam Peters and Lance Newmark, the assistant GM, what do they look at besides the tape to evaluate a quarterback?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. And I think there's a lot of different things. I think one is leadership. And if you're talking about just off the field, and leadership can be on the field, a lot of times things blend together too, on and off the field, when you're talking about intelligence and everything else, and processing and everything like that. But I think leadership, and people can lead in different ways, and the best way you lead is how you are, how you lead. Like, how you lead might be different than how Ben leads, and so on and so forth. But being yourself and leading in your own way, and that's by doing things the right way, working, coming in early, staying late, challenging your teammates, but in the right way, because you've earned their trust, because they respect you, because they have your back and you have their back, and that you've put in the work. So if I were to point to maybe one thing that we're not talking about that's something that's tangible on the field, I would say that.
Yeah, I would say there are some core traits, I think, that obviously the film, and then the core traits of work ethic. There's the great quarterbacks I've been around have tremendous inner belief in themselves, and I think the more you're around a person, the more you feel that and see that in them. And I would say the ability to unify people and create a common belief. But that core belief in themselves has always been something that I've seen and been a part of, and seen that translate to success.
It's so interesting hearing that after the day that I had yesterday, going to ESA and having the back and forth that I did with Michael Winger and Will Dawkins about Jordan Poole. And you might be going, wait, what? But they talked yesterday about, and this is the cool thing about like where I sit right now in sports media as someone who does multiple sports, as opposed to like, if you just cover the Commanders every day, like, sure, you have other things that you can reference. And like, Fortier, I think, does a great job sometimes of like leaning on his baseball background and his time spent that, or, obviously John has this tremendously rich history to compare to for Washington football, and Nicky's covered other teams. And Ben does this, I think, really well, Standig, because he's covered everything in town. But I was doing Wizards yesterday, and we're doing Commanders press conference today. And, the cross-section of what makes an athlete great. There are things that in every sport are constants. And not that Jordan Poole is a great player, but the reason that Jordan Poole got back to being a really productive player by the end of the season is because he put his head down and did the work, and he had the self-belief. And I think of the guys who are really successful quarterbacks and that I've covered, and Kirk Cousins and Alex Smith are the two most successful in terms of winning that I have covered, and that is how they are. Like, Alex was incredibly he didn't need the coaching. Like, obviously he took coaching and was open to coaching, but he didn't need it to get himself going. Kirk Cousins famously schedules every 15-minute block of his day. And so the regiment, the organization, the self-starting nature of a quarterback is really, really important. And it's, by the way, one of the reasons why I'm super high. Like, my biggest pro of Jaden Daniels is that's who that kid is. His work ethic caused LSU to change their policies around how long players were allowed to be in the building. Jaden Daniels went from throwing 18 touchdowns or whatever it was in 2022, 17 I think it was, to 40 and winning the Heisman, not because he and Brian Kelly got together because Kelly was like, you better be on the field at 5 a.m. every day. No, because Jaden Daniels lived in VR goggles in the offseason and got so many mental reps that he just got better. And so that is the kind of thing that you're looking for. And I've heard similar things about May. I've heard similar things about McCarthy. But ultimately, that is the kind of stuff that you're looking for off the field. You do need to see accuracy and footwork and timing and pocket feel and all those things. But are you someone who has the quarterback id to them? And I think that's part of the reason why, to go back to where we started the show, definitely worth a rewind or a podcast listen or an on-demand YouTube click if you missed it. Why I love what they did yesterday so much, bringing all those quarterbacks in together, is because you don't get the scripted meeting version of them that they've been doing on all these different 30 visits and all these different ways where they've talked to decision makers. You get them in a group of their peers and they let their guard down a little bit, or it's a different situation, and all of a sudden you're off script, and how do you handle it? And I think that's why they did that yesterday, and I think that's why it was a really good idea. That's the short version. If you want the long version, check out the first segment of the show today. One thing that you can say, they are certainly able to make moves in this draft, but don't expect one of those moves to come at number 2.
Yeah, I think with the optionality we have in all those picks, anything's in consideration. So, like we've said before, we're going to do whatever's best for this organization. So if that's moving up, if that's moving back, we'll do that. And lucky for us, we have the ability to do so with all the ammo we have.
And Peters would say later that he does feel comfortable at number 2 and doesn't foresee that happening. Now, with that said, that could be posturing just to say, like, hey, Vikings, I know you're blowing up my phone right now. Hey, Raiders, we know you love Jaden Daniels. Hey, Denver Broncos, Sean Payton, we know you love a trade up. You've historically done it like every year. Come on. Up those offers. Got to do better than this. So we'll see. But that 6 picks in the top 100, that is a big, big freaking deal. And Peters and Newmark commented on what that allows them to do.
Yeah, coming into this, we've been really fortunate to have 6 picks in the top 100. Like you said, that's a big deal. And especially, I mean, having the number, it's not just 6 picks in the top 100, it's the number 2 overall pick, and then really high second-round picks, and then 3 third-rounds. So that's a lot that we can do with that. It can really help us. We've done, like Lance has done a really good job in free agency. We all have, and now we have a chance to really supplement that and now build through this draft and with these 9 picks that we have. And so, we're really fortunate to have that, and I think we have a real chance to make this team a lot better.
Yeah, I think with what we did in free agency, it allowed us to have more freedom in the draft to go various different directions rather than need. It really allowed us to blend need and talent. And the quality of the picks, like Adam talked about at the top of the rounds, just the real high quality level of the picks, especially those top 6, really allow us to make a dramatic impact on our roster right away.
It's huge. And I was having this discussion with someone earlier today. When you have the number 2 overall pick, there is an enormous amount of pressure from the outside to get it right. And if you get it right, it changes your franchise in a way that is almost unimaginable at any other position, especially number 2 at quarterback, right? You get that pick right, and you're CJ Stroud, you're Houston, you're set. Like, you've done it. Congratulations. You got the thing that this whole sport surrounds around, which is a franchise quarterback. And by the way, you do it on a rookie quarterback timeline where now you've got 5 years to surround that young guy before you got to pay him and try to win. You're hoping multiple Super Bowls, have multiple shots at it at the very least. Then you pay the guy and you hope that he's Mahomes level and that he's so good that he's worth paying that much. That's the game, right? But if they were to miss at number 2 this year, and they get the other 5 top 100 picks right, they're going to be in really good shape and they're going to be in the playoffs in 2 years. Like, unless the quarterback play is truly atrocious. Because unlike in 2012 when they traded up for Robert, they didn't give up draft capital to get to 2. They just are there. Chicago's doing the same thing with Caleb Williams at 1. It's not even their pick. It's actually Carolina's. They're in a great situation because they're not actually a team that is worthy of having the first pick. They're better than that. They're the 9th worst team in the league based off the fact that they are sitting at number 9. And they have some good pieces for Caleb Williams to come in and like be a productive football player as a rookie. And Washington is in a similar-ish place where they have some weapons and their defense now has a floor underneath it on the other side. And, we'll see what happens at left tackle. That's kind of the big gaping hole right now. But ultimately, it's not like the cupboard is bare. And because you are just using the number 2 pick as opposed to trading up and using the number 2 pick, if they do not hit on this pick, will it set the team back? Absolutely. Will it be a missed opportunity? Yes. It is not a fatal flaw. And Peters would probably tell you, hey, look, you can trade up for the number 3 pick, and if you miss that, it's still not a fatal flaw. Look at what we did in San Francisco. Okay, yes, you can make it up. That's a big-time exception, not a rule, but it's just worth keeping in mind about the pressure that you may or may not feel to deliver the quote-unquote potential franchise-saving pick at number 2.
Do we look stressed? There is a lot of pressure, and it's great responsibility, and we take this very seriously, and that's why we've been working tirelessly on this and turning over every stone, and we want to do this obviously for this organization, but for this region, for this fan base, and for the men, the coaching staff, and the players on the field to get this right. So it's great responsibility. With that comes pressure, but that's what we signed up for.
And if you don't like that, then why are you here? Last but not least, to the methodology that more picks is better, there just has to be humility that you're going to make some mistakes along the way. Not everyone is going to work out. So, again, top 6 picks in the top 100. Peters, more questions about pressure versus kind of being okay, not being okay with, but understanding that their mistakes will be made.
Yeah, I think, Ben, it's it's people evaluating people. So, I would love to sit here and say we're going to go 9 for 9. I hope we do. I have great confidence that we will, but there's a slight chance we won't. And so, I say that I'm joking, but there's a lot to that. Having 9 picks really gives us that where they say you have more swings or however you want to put it. So we're very fortunate to have that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's all situational, honestly. There's times where somebody is really jumping out at you as being available, and there's times where you're like, man, there's nothing feels right here, and it might make more sense to go back and take some extra swings later. So I really think, for me personally, it's always situational. It's not like a steadfast philosophy.
And a lot's been made over the last 24, 48 hours about bringing in the 4 quarterbacks. I know you in the past at San Francisco, Adam, have brought in different prospects before. Is it different with quarterbacks, or what's your sort of philosophy behind bringing in all these guys together?
Yeah, I don't think it's very different personally with quarterbacks. With all these guys, they all know each other really well. And so what was cool is while we got to see them all together in a group setting at the Topgolf, which was really fun, and I think everybody had a great time, and it was very beneficial to see everybody in a more relaxed environment. They all got a lot of time individually with their coaches, with us, where they were staggered coming in too. So it wasn't like they were sitting in a room together. They all had their own individual time with everybody. So it worked out really well. And then you got a great blend of that, and then working everybody together, in a fun environment.
So there you go. You got multiple things in there. One, talking initially about the importance of having so many picks and understanding that there's going to be misses along the way. That's just the data and what it says and the reality of how it works. But also glad that last little bite was in there as well. Adam Peters talking about the much ballyhooed multiple quarterback visit yesterday and why it was actually a good idea. We talked about that off the top of the show. Definitely recommend rewinding if you missed that earlier in the program or checking out the podcast. Wherever you get yours, just search The Hoffman Show.
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.